Hi guys, it's the Walk-In 00 Dead here, king of the anime and manga boxers, 2012 Shoney winner. Yeah, that's right. So today I'm going to be doing my top 10, anime that I watched in 2012. It doesn't mean they actually came out in 2012, but it's just the best ones that I discovered, I unboxed, I bought, I watched in 2012, and I'm going to do this like 10 little recommendations for you guys. So hopefully you find something you've never heard of and you've always wanted to check out, and you find some really cool anime to watch. So enjoy, guys. Show me! Making its way to number 10 by knocking you out with one punch is Fairy Tail, and a lot of people are going, "Dead Fairy Tail, really?" Yeah, Fairy Tail. I thought this was a fun little series. Obviously, it's not got the greatest characters or the deepest story, but it was a fun little series. I didn't go into it with high expectations, so I wasn't disappointed. I mean, the basic plot of Fairy Tail, it's about Natsu, who's this fire-eating, fire-wielding wizard who's hoping to sort of like make a name for himself in like the Fairy Tail Guild, and he also wants to find this dragon that basically like raised him. And along his journeys, and his adventures, he's accompanied by Lucy, who's technically supposed to be the main character. She wants to become a powerful wizard herself and make a name for herself as well. And Happy, the blue cat, Grey, and also Urza, who's an absolute badass. For me, Fairy Tail, as I said, it's a fun little action series. It's got some great fights. It's got some really great visuals and animation. It's got some nice music as well. It's got some cool characters. Natsu, he's not the greatest character in the world. I'm not going to lie, but I'm not going to bash him either. Though the series does lack any sort of like true storyline. I mean, what is the storyline to Fairy Tail? And let's be honest with ourselves. I'm not bashing on it. It's about a guy that eats magic and knocks the enemies out with one punch that are more powerful than him. It's fun, man. It's don't take it too seriously. Coming in at number 10, it's Fairy Tail. So, making its way to the number 9 spot by doing a little bit of trading is Spice and Wolf. Spice Wolf is about Lawrence, who's like a travelling merchant searching for like profit, and one day he finds naked like Holo, who's like a wolf goddess, in the back of his car asleep. And they end up making this like little deal where basically, Holo will help Lawrence make a lot of money if Lawrence helps to get back to the north, back to like a country and where she comes from, basically. And it's a cool little story. I mean, Spice and Wolf's a really nice, like light-hearted little fantasy series with a nice bit of like romance sort of like blended in there. And it's about like merchant and farming and trading and like economics. And it may sound really odd, but it's a really great little series. It's got a likeable character, likeable characters, should I say, and a likeable little storyline. I mean, it's really great. I mean, you have to check it out for yourself. I know a lot of people will be put off by it, but it's a really nice little light-hearted series. If you want something different, check out Spice and Wolf at number 9. So, coming in at number 8, but blowing your head off with a giant alien space gun, it's Gans. Gans is about, two like high school students that used to be like best friends. They're kind of close, and they end up saving this bum from getting hit by a train on these like train tracks and like at the subway. And they end up, saving this bum's life, but at the same time they end up getting hit by the train and killed. But they're brought back to life by this crazy like alien device called the Gans ball. And the Gans ball like resurrects them, and then it sends them on like missions to kill other like aliens. And when they kill these aliens, they like gain points, and the more points they gain, the longer they're going to live, basically. And if they gain like 100 points, they can earn enough points to get out of this game. And the reason they want to get out of this game is because the aliens aren't easy to kill. People, say like when they get brought back from a mission, say like 8 people to 10 people get brought back every time. Maybe like 2 people come back each time. It's an absolute slaughter fest. People get torn to pieces, cut apart, eating whatever, man. I mean, it's crazy. Gans is a really gory action series. It's got some fan service and sex in it with some hot chicks. It's just ascending all over. It's such a good little series. I mean, it's got a really badass main character. He's a total fucking asshole. He's a badass. He kills aliens. He's got the most amazing line ever, which is "cock-a-doodle-doo, motherfucker." Yeah, which I absolutely loved. It cracked me up. It's actually got a really interesting little plot as well. The whole like Gans ball bringing people back to life and all that sort of stuff. It's really different and really unique, and I really like the sci-fi aspect of it. So Gans coming in at number 8. So reality warping its way into number 7 is the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Now, this series has got massive hype around it, and to be honest with you, it is a really great little series, and I genuinely really enjoyed it. The basic plot, if you don't know about it, it's about Kyon, who's this high school student that meets a young girl called Haruhi Suzumiya, who ends up being basically like God and controls reality, but she doesn't know that she does. And she's a really like wacky, odd, sort of person that wants to find like aliens, espers, and time travelers. You know, she wants to be interested in life because she's like really bored. And her and Kyon end up, you know, starting a club called the SOS Club or the SOS Brigade, whatever you want to call it, at their like school. And they're basically, funny enough, an esper, an alien, and a time traveler end up basically joining this group. And it's their sort of like job to keep an eye over like Haruhi, make sure she's happy, make sure she's not bored. Because if she does become like unhappy or bored in life, you know, reality will rip or shatter or end or break, or Haruhi herself will manipulate reality. So there could be aliens that are 10 foot tall, or fucking zombie apocalypses, or whatever. You know, she could essentially destroy existence itself. So it's a cool little series. You know, it's a really fun, light-hearted, imaginative little series. It's a really cool, like little. It's like a slice of life mixed with sci-fi, which I really like the sci-fi aspects of this. You know, it's wacky, it's charming, it's a cool series. Go check it out. Number 7, Haruhi Suzumiya. So, using a ton of willpower to get its way to number 6 is Gurren Lagarde. Cool little series. The basic plot is about Simone and Kamina, who live in this like underground village, and they sort of basically like dig tunnels to, you know, expand the village. They've got a really dull, meaningless sort of like life, and Kamina wants to like reach to the heavens. You know, he wants to, you know, sky's the limit. This guy's like really motivated. He's a really great sort of like leader and friend to like Simone, and sort of like influence on Simone. And one day, you know, Simone's like drilling away, and he finds like a Gundam, which is like a giant mech called Gurren Lagann. And they end up, you know, breaking to the surface and going on this like journey, and they meet Yoko, who's this like girl with big boobs and a massive sniper rifle. And they sort of end up battling these things called like beastmen, and they want to like battle for freedom for like the human race against like the Spiral King, and like free everybody so everyone can like live on the surface. But there's like more to it, you know, than that. But it is like really fast-paced, like action, fight after fight after fight, explosions, you know, Kamina's speeches. You know, Kamina Kamina's a really cool character. You know, like I said, awesome action, awesome mech fights, some actual enjoyable mech fights. Mech fights for me are usually really dull and boring, but I really like this. You know, great characters, some really nice animation, crisp, fluid, colourful, great animation, and some really great, you know, music as well. Bro, fight the power. So, shit talking its way into number 5 is Yu Yu Hakusho. Yep, 2012 is the first time I ever watched Yu Yu Hakusho from start to finish. I actually picked up, you know, part 1 like a really long time ago, and I dropped it. I thought it was kind of really average. Got to the Dark Tournament, you know, didn't think the fights were better than Dragon Ball Z at the time, dropped it again. Then I got to the Yusuke versus Toguro fight, loved it. So I had to get Chapter Black and the Three Kings, thought Sensory was awesome. I loved the Doctor, I loved all those characters. Just these 2 parts really saved the series for me, and I could definitely see why everyone absolutely loves the series. If you've heard the hype about Yu Yu Hakusho, but you've never actually watched it, you should definitely check it out. It's about this young like delinquent called Yusuke Urameshi, who's a bit of like a punk, you know, a bit of a street punk basically. Doesn't go to school, all that sort of stuff, and he ends up like saving this young kid's life, but also getting hit by a car and being killed. But then he's given a second chance in life, and he's turned into a spirit detective, and basically he works for like the spirit realm, and he helps, you know, defend humans and the earth against like demons and ghosts and all the nasty shit that's sort of like that's invisible and no one can see, that kills people basically. And you know, he ends up teaming up with his best friend, well, his like rival, I wouldn't say his best friend, who sort of becomes his best friend, Kuwabara. He meets, you know, the demons Yusuke and Kurama, and they just form this awesome team. This is like a really well written shonen series. It's got some great character development. These 4 main characters play off each other really well. They're absolutely brilliant little team. There's some incredible fights in this series. There is some really good ones later on. Personally, Toguro versus, you know, Yusuke, loved it. I mean, it really reminded me of Frieza versus Goku. So that's kind of why I fell in love with the series a little bit. It's got some great villains. Toguro is my favourite. I just think he's a fucking beast. And then you got Sensui, who's like really complex character who everyone loves, but personally I don't like him as much, but that's just me. I've got to say the animation's, you know, a little bit aged now because it did come out like 15 odd years ago, but it's definitely worth checking out. Yu Yu Hakusho coming in at number 5, brilliant series. So drifting its way into number 4 spot is Initial D. Now Yokoyama kept like recommending this all the time and speaking about it, so I checked it out and I absolutely love this little series. Smashed it out. I've stopped at stage 3 because I don't want to, you know, go past stage 4 and there not be a lot of stage 5, so I'm going to wait a little while. Really loved this series. Really surprised how good this was. It's basically about Tokumi, who's this like young high school student that works for his father in this like tofu shop, and his dad's called Bunta, and he's like, unbeknown to his son, he's like this legendary like drift racer, and like unintentionally sort of been like teaching his son how to drift race on like the mountains so that he can deliver like tofu faster, basically. And he essentially like meets with like his best friend, and they go to like this race, up on the mountains called Okina Pass, and he ends up basically whooping one of these brothers called the Takahashi brothers, who are like these racing like brother team that have got this like really great reputation for being amazing and defeating all of these people and all of these different like mountains like in their own territory. And Tokumi just like whoops him, and he's like totally shocked, and like no one knew that Tokumi was such an incredible racer. And then all these different racers come from all these different regions to like challenge Tokumi in his like 86 car, and it's just really great. And it's got some really cool other like little stories like intertwined into it, some like little love stories. I mean, you've got three essentially like main characters. You've got Tokumi, his best friend, and then his other best friend that works at, like the gas station, and they each get like a little love interest that follows in each of the different stages, and they're actually like really well written, and they can also be like really sad, and they generally like add quite a bit to the series. So it's not all about just like drifting cars. I mean, but the races are really great in this. It does actually make you feel like you're in the front seat of a car when someone's going really fast. You know what I mean? When it's through the front window, you know what that feeling is. It's got likeable characters, a cool little cast of characters, I'll say. It's got a good dub cast, I'd say, for how old this series is, and it's got a great, soundtrack that really adds to the races in the series, and it sort of adds to the sort of like little sad scenes that you get later on in it. And I've got to say that the CGI they used for the cars when this was made in like 1992 it looks really good actually. I mean, you would have thought CGI would look fucking terrible for anime this old. I'm not saying the animation is amazing because it has aged, but if you put yourself back a little bit, like you step back and go, wow, this came out in 1992, it looks really good. Highly recommend you check out Initial D. It comes in at my number 4 spot. So, mind fucking your way into number 3 is Code Geass. So a lot of people say this is the greatest anime ever made. I wouldn't say it's the greatest, it's definitely up there on the short list. Really great series. If you've heard the hype about Code Geass but you've never watched it and you want to know what it's about Lelouch, who's like this former like exiled Prince of Britannia, and his like sister gets like crippled and his mother gets killed basically, and he's like exiled and thrown away by like the Britannians who like rule the world basically. They rule the entire world, and he like lives in the slums of like Japan, who are now called like 11s because the world's been broken up into like districts, area 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to like 11 essentially. And he wants like revenge from Britannia and to bring down his father, and he ends up meeting this girl called CC or C2, and she gives him like the power of the Geass, which is the power of the king, and his Geass allows him basically to like manipulate anyone, so if he looks into your eyes and he tells you to do something, you're going to do it. So it's basically his revenge story on how he can bring down Britannia and how he can make a better world for his little sister Nunnally, basically. So it is a really great series. It's really well written, it brings in like politics, and it's got some like complex like themes. It's got a really great, main character. He's really well developed, arguably one of the best like main protagonists in any series. His development is just absolutely incredible. Not to give any spoilers away there. It's got great dialogue as well, which is another thing that a lot of people don't bring up. Is like the dialogue in this series is top notch. And the mech fights, for me, these are my most favourite mech fights because they actually bring like tactics into the fight, and it's not like cannon fodder just like slicing away and killing shit like in Gundam. There's actually some tactics to it, and it's like a chess game in a sense, and the fights are just really cool, and I really liked it. Code Geass coming in at number 3. You should definitely check it out. Brilliant series. Making its way to the number 2 spot by sitting on its arse and doing absolutely nothing is Welcome to the NHK. Now I heard like Bob Samurai and Co-Provider earlier on in the year, last year, saying this is their favourite series and the best series ever, and so I had to check it out, and it's absolutely incredible. It's a really great sort of dark series. It's really dark when you really think about it, And basically it's about Soto, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, it's been a while since I watched it, and he's a hikikomori, which is basically like a shut-in, someone that's got no life, no social life, they don't talk to anyone, they don't go out, they don't do anything. And he's also like a NEET, which is not in employment, education, or like training, basically. So he's essentially got no life whatsoever, and he just lives in his room wanking off to like porn and playing like RPG games, which is pretty cool. And he's also like completely paranoid, and he believes a secret organisation called the NHK, which is actually like a news network, is trying to like brainwash people with like constantly playing like anime and turning them into hikikomori so they stay in and don't have lives. Which is, you know, it's a really odd little series, but it's about more than that, because there's this girl that, you know, basically decides that she's gonna like make her way into his life and get him out of his room and make him make friends and have a social life and get a job, and you know, it's her like little project to sort of like help this guy. And this is like a really dark, complex series, and it, you know, has a ton of like morals and messages in it that are really great. The themes in this series are brilliant, some really great ones. This is the best way to describe this, is like a dark slice of life comedy drama, basically. It's the best way I could say. It's got like a really emotional storyline. You really invest in like the character, the main character, and you really feel for him that he's got no life, basically. Number 2, Welcome to NHK. So, blood sucking its way onto the number 1 spot was Sheiki. This series really reminded me why I'm an anime fan, why I love anime, just because of the, you know, really unique stories that can happen in anime. If you've never heard about Sheiki, the basic plot for this is it's set in this small like Japanese village that's sort of like closed off basically from anywhere. You know, it's on the outskirts, it's nowhere near like civilization, and there's like this pandemic that's going on inside this little city, and people are slowly dying, and the death count is rising and rising and rising, and the panic, and like, you know, well, at first people aren't too panicked, but then when it keeps going on for months and months and months and more people dying, you know, people start panicking, they don't know what the hell's going on, and it ends up that it turns out to be vampires. Now, a lot of people go, wow, I hate vampires, I'm not going to check the series out. This isn't your typical vampire series, not by a long shot, because it's extremely well written, and it's not like super powered vampires that are just jumping on people and ripping them to pieces. This is slow, it's methodical, it builds, you know, to a point where the Sheiki is slowly taking over this village, and there's not many, you know, regular people left, and the regular people that are left don't believe that vampires are killing everybody. So it's such a brilliant psychological little series, so good. It's a really dark, complex series that has some real moral messages that make you think and question, you know, about like humanity and stuff. And honestly, it's really great. It's really well written, I have to say. One of the best like horror series I've ever watched. And a lot of people are going to go, if they have watched it, oh, I thought it was slow paced. But a lot of people don't understand that this series is supposed to be slow paced. It's slow paced so that it can build character development, so it can build character investment, so you invest in these characters so that when they become Sheiki, you're like, you know, holy shit, you know, this person's now a Sheiki. And then you see one of your favourite characters like question their own like human morals. Am I still human? I don't want to eat people. And then you've got other people that go, fuck it, I'm a Sheiki now, I'm just going to fucking slaughter people, you know. And it brings up really great morals, and you know, and it's slow paced in the first half to do that, so you invest in your characters, and that's the reason why the first half of Sheiki is really slow. I'm going to say the second half is so much better because so much more goes on, but the first half's to build up, it's to stew the series, it's to build the storyline, it's to build the atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere in this series is like no other. Incredible, really creepy, dark music that helps build the atmosphere. And this is the first series where the first series that I've ever seen pull this off perfectly, is where the good guys flip to become the bad guys, and the bad guys flip to become the good guys. Oh god, this is such a good series. I highly recommend it. It's really great. You can get this in the UK and you can get this in America. This is the American Chipboard limited edition. I had to have it. Such a great series. So guys, drop me some comments down below. What 10 anime would you recommend everybody in the comment sections that you watched from last year? I know a lot of people are probably going to say like Psychopaths, Batum and JoJo, but these series weren't ones that were released this year. They were just ones that I personally watched and I unboxed and I picked up. But yeah, if you like my stuff, you know, please subscribe. Go check out all my other unboxings, my top 10 lists, my anime reviews, my manga recommendations, all the good stuff that I do, and give us the old thumbs up for Anime and Manga. Thanks for watching, guys. Sheiki came in at number 1. May the sun never set on the British anime empire.